Welcome to the original International Teacher Podcast with hosts in 4 different time zones, Greg, Darian, Kent, JP, and Hannah, bringing you episodes from around the world about the best kept secret in education. You got it, international teaching. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the International Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Loney, and with me I've got JP from JP Mint Consulting.
Hello, that was awesome. First intro, woo woo!
Woo. And today we have special guest Audrey Forgeron from Educators Going Global podcast. Thank you for joining us today, Audrey.
Thank you so much for having me on, Hannah and JP. It's good to see you, ladies.
The ladies.
Woo. So Audrey is coming back for, this is now, I believe, her second episode with ITP. The first one was with David as an egghead, as an Educators Going Global podcast host. But today, I think Audrey has some news for us. She's got other projects on the go. But first, Audrey, where are you calling in from?
I'm in Kathmandu, Nepal. And it's beautiful out right now, other than the smog, unfortunately.
I can see the sun reflecting in your glasses, whereas right now it's almost, we're getting close to 11 p.m. here in Mexico time.
Right.
But it's really, really good to see you and good to have you on the show. So just for those of us that, or the listeners that haven't moved over to checking out Educators Going Global, can you give us a quick rundown of what that podcast is like, if possible? And then we'll also talk about your international journey and all of that good stuff.
Well, thank you for the question and for highlighting our podcast. We tend to go by subject area. We look for guests who can speak to that subject. And then sometimes we do, I think similar to what you do, is we think, oh, this would be an amazing guest. What subject could they talk about? So we've done kind of both sides of it. We've really enjoyed what we're doing. I love that we meet so many people. Some of them it's reconnecting. Some of them it's connecting for the first time. We cover all the gamut of topics about international education. I would say if we were going to look at the two podcasts, yours is more of a relaxed conversation, exploring with open questions and maybe a little less targeted. Ours tends to be more focused on a set of questions that we've gone over ahead of time. So it's more scripted. We want to make sure that we stay on topic and that we're trying to, provide that value for people. And so it's just a very different approach. And I love both of them. I listen to your podcast too, of course. And let me just mention before I shut up for a second that we have had JP Mint on 4 times onto our podcast. So if anybody wants to get to know her services a little better, that might be a venue for you to go and listen.
3 for sure. I could remember 3, but I guess I snuck a 4th one in there somewhere.
I believe we did the cover letter, the resume. We did I'm about to go into my first, it was either interview or job fair. And then later we did how's it going a year later.
Yes. And how's recruiting and everything.
Exactly, the state of recruiting and things. So lots of valuable information from Ms. JP Mint. So please head on over.
What I appreciate about your podcast, Audrey, is that for anyone thinking about jumping in, if they jump in and listen to one of our episodes, like we often are already in the thick of things and we're talking about how amazing this is. But for somebody that wants to know a bit more, like how do you get into it? I think you have a lot of those types of episodes, sort of, as you say, scaffolded or like a framework created for them. Hannah, you also listen to EGG?
Yeah, I do. It's a great way to kind of know what's going on in the world of education. I feel like in an international perspective, because sometimes I feel like I live in a bubble and I don't really know what's going on in other places or what other educators may be doing. And so to get that different perspective is great.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. And we also, just a quick mention, we have the way we've organized our website is around, we've got different pages. We've got a blog page. We've got resources, a library resource with all kinds of resources for international educators or people thinking about it. And we also have our podcast page, which all our podcasts are hosted on there, and it's searchable by topic. You can filter, and then you can say someone's name if you're interested. And then also we have something that I wish was a little more popular. It hasn't really gained traction, which is people telling their stories. And JP kindly gave a couple of those really fun
YouTube
stories. Yeah, like you were in China and you were trying with your dad or your stepfather, I think, to figure out the lockers at the bus station, for example. So she was talking about how fun that was, or playing chess with the Turkish men in the little garden in Istanbul. So just those fun stories, or those like, oh my goodness, I was, Greg told one about meeting a former or a current student, I think, in Australia, so these are the stories I just think make it such a rich experience. So we have a page of those and a YouTube channel of those. So maybe Hannah, we'll get you to tell a story or two. And, yeah. So anybody who's interested, please reach out to us at educatorsgoingglobal@gmail.com, and you can send us a story. Would be awesome.
And we'll definitely put all your information, Audrey, in our show notes. Well, I say we, but I mean Greg, because Greg is really good at all that. Yeah. Speaking of which, Greg is currently without power, so he sent me a message, and that's why he won't be joining us today. Kent is likely sleeping at this point because it's a little bit late for him on Seattle, and Darian is probably busy with his family. So that's all the other co-hosts. But what I'd like to talk a little bit is the journey that has taken you to Kathmandu, because I know you have a rich history of countries and schools, sort of picking up and moving and transitioning. You have far more experience than both of us. I'd love to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Too.
All right. So I originally went to the Queen's University Job Fair after I finished teaching for a couple of years in Canada. I wanted to get my feet wet. And the most exciting challenge for me was Ethiopia. I just thought, wow, that sounds so exotic and far away. But the head of school portrayed it as such a fun, interesting, cool place, and that, the school was really special. And so that's how I ended up there. And I met my husband, Mark, there. Together, we went to Saudi Arabia because we wanted to start a family. And it was like, I'm just not quite 100% confident in the medical structure in Ethiopia. And so we moved to Saudi, and it was amazing. We had a great time there. We lived on a little compound with other families, and it felt really safe and comfortable. And, our kids grew up with other teacher kids, which I really liked. And then we moved from there. We moved to Singapore, and that was very cool. It's such a hub in Asia, Southeast Asia. Loved it there. And then we moved from there to Chile, because our son had graduated, and we said to our daughter, well, so what do you want to do? You want to stay here and finish? And she said, let's try a new adventure. So she had met this South American guy who was, she kind of had a crush on. She was like, I think South America would be great. So we moved we got lucky. We got jobs in Chile. And then from there, Mark was frustrated about the cold because the houses are not heated. If you guys have ever lived in a place where there's concrete houses, it doesn't stay that warm inside the house. And so you're constantly wearing your winter jacket and so on. So he said, I'd like to try something different. So that's how we ended up going to Senegal. And that was nice because we both speak French, and it was a nice little school in Dakar.
Yeah, that's one of my dream schools.
Is it? Okay, mm-hmm. Very cool, very cool. And then we went from there. We went to Italy, and at that stage, I had decided I was just ready to move on from teaching. So I said to Mark, "You recruit, and I will just follow along, and we'll see what happens." And we ended up in Italy. I did teach as a sub, fair bit there. And then from there, we ended up moving to Jamaica, which was good. It was not the beach town that we thought. Like Kingston is actually a big city with not great beaches, but you can drive in a couple hours up to Ocho Rios. And so it's nice to do that on a weekend or whatever. And then finally, we ended up over here in Kathmandu. We knew the director, so that's something that often happens where if you know somebody, then they, you kind of, your resume kind of jumps up the pile a little.
All right, let's take a moment for a little commercial about how to get in touch with us. You can, of course, find all four of us at the itpexpat.com. That's www.itpexpat.com.
Or you could also find us at email at internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Or if you're into Facebook, we have a new Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/ITPexpat, where you can find all kinds of inside information about ITP Expat.
You can also find us on Instagram at International Teacher Podcast. This is our handle.
All right, and thank you, listeners. We have over 100 countries represented by our listeners, and though we're not monetized, we are here for you, and we would like to thank all of you for listening. So let's get back to the show.
Okay, so Audrey, what I really want to know is how did you become a life coach? Were there courses involved? Is there, I don't know, do life coaches have to get a certain certification, or how does that work?
Oh, great question. So there's actually something called the International Coaching Federation that kind of governs this. And what I did was I took the Foundations course, which was a 40-hour course, through something called the International Life Coach Training, I think, ILCT, Center. And then after that, you have to take a certain number of courses every year to maintain your certification. And then you do, what I did was the board certified coach exam. So I'm certified and everything, but I'll say that, part of this explosion of coaches, as Jacqueline was talking about before, is due to you can put out a shingle and call yourself a coach. You can call yourself a life coach. You can even have a niche with no training at all. And okay. So I think that's part of what's going on because, maybe people think, okay, I'm good at giving advice. I could be a life coach. But as we established before, it's not easy. It's not something that that you can just pick up and do. You could do it. You just may not be doing it in the way that the Life Coaching Federation expects. So
question, then that certification that you got, is that just for the US, Canada, or is that international then?
Right. That's a good question. It's international, and I've been doing coaching here and online. I've been offering workshops here in schools and in the community, and then working with clients who are, my furthest away was Alaska. So that's a long way from Kathmandu. So it's been a mishmash of all things, but a great journey for me. I've learned a lot about myself as well. So all good.
Did you start out then with your own life coach, or is that how you were introduced to the whole life coach area? Yeah.
I worked with her for a couple of months just to kind of get myself figured out. We did some kind of values clarification and some sort of career imagining kind of thing. I don't know if you've heard of life design, but it's based on kind of the design cycle where you take a goal that you've got and then you create a prototype and then you iterate on that prototype and you just try to keep moving forward with it in a non-judgmental way. That's always really important, the non-judgmental piece, and see what happens, try things out and see what happens. And so that's when I started doing the courses and things like that. And just here I am.
Oh, is this something that you see yourself like doing for maybe the rest of your life, or just like a few more years, or what's that thought process like? You want to get back into education, or are you happy with what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Growing the business.
Yeah, growing the business.
Thank you for that question. I really would love to keep growing the business. I love what I'm doing. I really enjoy collaborating with people. I enjoy hearing about their successes and just being kind of the guide on the side, we talk about in teaching, that can open up ideas for them. I've had some great success stories that just thrill me. I actually had one guy who kind of shared with me that he, I just asked him about coaching. This was early days. I asked him if he would volunteer to let me coach him. And he kind of expressed that he was feeling a little bit depressed. And I was saying, well, what do you think? Maybe therapy would be the way to go here. And he ended up having a therapist and continued with life coaching as well. He is an awesome success story because he now is super happy with his life and is really making time for himself, like you talked about, carving out time for yourself. And he is moving forward in just a wonderfully satisfying way. He's really thriving, right? And that's the goal. So, yeah, just as an example.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I think we're going to probably wrap this episode up fairly shortly. We do have a couple questions. I don't know if you know what questions we're talking about, Audrey, but
of course, I'm a listener and I've prepared, so hit me.
In all your travels and all your time abroad, do you have a police story for us, or custom story?
So last time I was on the show, I told 2 police stories. I was a bit of a microphone hog, I guess. So I don't have a police story, but is a border crossing story. Okay. So I was living in the Middle East and I went off to play softball with my team, and we had a great time. And when we came back from the weekend, I got to the border guard and I handed over my passport, which is, can be a scary thing because it's sort of your life is in your hand here. And the person asked me, "How are you getting home?" And without thinking, I said, "Oh, I'm just going to hail a cab." Well, that was the wrong answer, because as a woman coming in on her own, you didn't do that in this location. And so they actually required me in the end to call my husband and have him come and pick me up. And I was like, that is just a sign of a different culture, and you just kind of got to roll with it. But at first it was like, no, that means me waiting another hour and him, having to get out of bed and get in the car. And so it was frustrating for me, but at the same time I can, you got to kind of understand that different cultural norms are in effect, and you got to go with their norms. You're not in your own country.
No. Mm-hmm. I get that sometimes too as a wife in the Middle East, the husband has to do a lot more than I want to do, because I want to do it because, a strong, independent woman, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to take care of ourselves.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that story with us.
So the other question we have is, in all your moves, are there 3 things that you need to make your place a home, to make you feel at home?
Right. Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit, because one thing I feel like I need is my tech. And I'm going to include in that my microphone for recording podcasts, my headphones, my laptop, my phone. I need all these things or I just don't feel settled. And another thing is my pillow. I have a lot of neck problems and upper back problems. And so having my wonderful feather pillow, I take it with me anytime we travel, is so important. And then the third thing is my travel mug, because it makes me feel grounded to have. I always take my own tea with me, and I use stevia, so I bring that along with me. So anywhere, there she is, anywhere I am, I've got my travel mug and I feel at home. So those are my 3 things.
Well, thank you for sharing today, and thank you for being on the podcast here with us. Do we have any other?
Well, so for final thoughts, Audrey,
Yeah.
do you have some final thoughts on if someone was thinking of taking the next step, what would that be? What would that look like going to your website? Do you have some sort of calls, like discovery calls or something?
Yeah, I do. So folks can go to my website, which is forgeyourbestlife.com. And there are multiple places where you'll find a button that says book a call. And I don't have an automatic calendaring system because I want to make sure people are aware that the call is just to get to know each other. It's not necessarily we're going to work together. It's to see if we're a good fit. And so I want to have a little conversation with them before booking so that I can just sort of test out the waters and see how things are, what they're looking for, and so on. So I actually have an application for coaching that they can fill out, and it gives me an idea of what's happening, what's going on there. And from there, we would book a call for sure. I have a lot of information on my website, too, about the different kinds of coaching that I do, so people can look at that. And I'm actually working on posting some Instagram little help videos and some, I have a Facebook business page as well that people can go to, which is also called Forge Your Best Life. So there's a couple of different ways that people can reach out to me or get to know me better.
And final thoughts, Hannah?
It sounds amazing what you do. I think, having a life coach, having someone to be accountable to, it would be a phenomenal opportunity. And I hope that maybe one day I can have my own life coach, or, maybe more international schools having life coaches on staff for leaders, and not just leaders, but teachers, would be a phenomenal thing.
Part of the PD stipend can be used for that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I would like to thank Audrey Forgeron for coming on to our show today to talk about her website, Forge Your Life. I will we'll put these in the show notes so you can click away and go discover all the different services that she has, the different options. I want to thank my co-host, Hannah, for coming on and being the glue for some of our technical difficulties today. And then I want to say thank you, everyone. I'm Jacqueline from JP Mint Consulting, and you can find me at jpmintconsulting.com. And you can find our other guys, the guys out there with their families and friends, and hopefully with some Wi-Fi for